call to order our meeting at, what time is it? 6:38. Present in the meeting in person, we have Patty, Sandy, Sarah, Vince, Cara, Lori, and then Pam, Janine, Adele, Cheryl, and Randy participating via Zoom. So thank you everybody for joining. We have 4 things on our agenda today. I wanted to touch base on the survey, but spend most of our meeting fleshing out our matrix of pros and cons of the new build and of the renovation. On the survey, I distributed by email a revised survey based on the comments from our last meeting. I thought that we had a great discussion and a lot of detail-oriented comments. Go back and watch the video. I'd love people to look at the revised survey and then just send me an email with any other comments you have about the survey. We can talk about it at our next meeting. And I also think doing the pros and a more comprehensive view of the pros and cons tonight might lead to another area of inquiry that we want for the survey. So I think it follows pretty logically. Any other comments on the survey before I move the agenda?
When did you send it out? Because I didn't get it. I just checked my email again.
You did, I included it with the agenda. So I will send it to you when the meeting is over, Janine.
Okay, I didn't get the agenda either. So
Okay, Janine,
yeah.
I'm really sorry if
That's okay.
I'll double check the email on you and resend it.
That's fine. Thanks.
Did anybody else not get it?
I got it.
Okay, all right. Janine, I'll resend that to you. Okay, so the thing that I want to talk about next, or the pros and cons of the new build, and if we have time, the pros and cons of the renovation. During our first meeting, we started a matrix of the pros and cons, but I wanted to continue that process so that we could make the list more complete. I thought the process worked well, where we just go around the room and everybody contributes one pro or one con, whatever you want, to our list, and we'll keep going until we have a full list. I sent in the meeting materials, which Janine, you don't have, so you'll be at a slight disadvantage here, what we generated during our first brainstorming, and we can use that as a starting point for fleshing out benefits of the new build and risks of the new build. So, and just so everybody contributes, we'll go first for people who are here in person, and then we'll move to the Zoom and go in order, and anybody who wants to contribute, please share your one thing. So with that, since you're to my right, Vince,
yeah,
can I have you add to our list? And if you feel like it's complete, that's also fine.
at the moment,
Hey, Cara, since I don't have the list, can you just read where we were so we know not to add something that's on the list?
Janine, I'm gonna, while I'm waiting while Vince is talking, I'm gonna send that to you.
Could she
Okay.
confirm her email again?
Yeah, I'm just wondering if let's see.
I'm not gonna be talking much because I'm not, I don't have anything to add to the list from the last meeting.
Okay, so pass. Sarah, anything you want to add?
New build, I think we've got it covered there. Obviously, it would be. Go ahead. On the new build, I think obviously, having a new bathhouse would be amazing. What we have there now is not even remotely acceptable. So I think we've covered that. And that would be the biggest push for me. For the new build. On the cons, I think again, we've covered almost everything, except for the fact that, the last time that we looked at this and with the cost of it, we all know how much the cost of building materials has gone up, as well as the scarcity of materials. And I think that is something huge to consider. I'm trying to get somebody to come in and put a TV in my kitchen, and I can't get somebody to even return a text. So I think we're going to be in a hard place. I think that's going to be challenging on a new build front. I'm sure that if we look at whatever the cost was X you know, when we had the initial proposal, it's gonna be exponentially higher.
Great, thank you.
Might back up.
Take your
now.
turn back.
Yeah,
Okay.
take my turn back.
Fair enough, thank you.
My biggest objection also, one of my big objections about the building is that it will require year-round heating and maintenance and looking after, when generally the beach is closed for 8 months, of 8 months. And the record, somebody mentioned about how the elevator, this building having an elevator, and if we can't maintain the elevator at the railroad station, what's the likelihood of maintaining this building at 100% year round for years in the future?
Okay, my only thought is that the cost of what the building will cost to do, and with the fact that they've said that over the years of it's only gonna get worse, the flooding, you know, to spend that money and then eventually it's still not gonna be survivable probably. Whereas this old building, I don't know.
Sorry, will you clarify, is it the building, the new building that won't survive the flooding,
Right.
or that the parking lot needs? changing?
Both, yeah.
Both, yeah, okay.
Why would the new building not survive? Well, if the water's just gonna continue to go up and we're making it 17 feet high and the water's just gonna keep going, I mean, eventually, I don't think the building, it's still not gonna be good. I mean, if the water's gonna come up and surround the building, it's not gonna be viable.
But it'll be elevated.
Okay, we'll have to walk to the water probably eventually to get to it. Whether we're going to do it completely, you know. Well, it's no, I just don't think it's worth the money to put a huge building there. It's not my pick.
Me?
Yeah.
Okay, so I gave my pros and cons last time. But I do feel, based on this sheet, that I'm gonna add 2 benefits, because I feel like we need to balance out the benefits a little bit. So the first thing I'm gonna say is that, and I said this before, you know, there are 400, you know, new apartments coming online, and then we just got the Parklands, you know, was just approved to 60 units, and these are all apartments. And as we said, apartments, multifamily dwellings. And so those folks don't necessarily have backyards, you know, that's not Avalon where it's got the pool there. And so I think we do have to think about the number of new people that are coming in town. I will just tell the story. It just came from Mass, hence the ashes on Ash Wednesday. And I'm not giving a whole thing, but anyways, I walked in and the whole church was crowded. And it was so moving that it actually caught me, because it was one of those things where you feel like people are coming back. So that's great. But what I also noticed was there were so many new families. And maybe I'm just getting old, but there were a lot of people with young families in town. So I do think, you know, that's a consideration. Now we do have, that's back to your point, Sarah, we do have 2 beaches. And so perhaps ultimately it becomes a directing people to, if you want food and concessions, you go to Weed. If you want this, if we don't do a concession here and you're bringing your own food, you back up your car to Pear Tree and you do it there. So that's an overall thing. But I do think under, you know, benefits, we do need to think about those, you know, 400 new units coming in. The other thing is, I do think, you know, with the new build, it eliminates, eliminates the limitations of renovating within the FEMA constraints. in that, as we know from before, like you're spending 97,000 and then you gotta wait 3 years, and then 97,000 and wait 3 years, 97,000, wait 3 years. And so Neil Huck, did do his best to come up with a really interesting design where he pulled it together and had the building basically kind of next to each other, not necessarily touching, did his best that he could from a design. I'm on record as saying, I personally think a elevator is a no-go for all the reasons we've said in the past meetings. But those are my 2 points that I think needed to be added to these sheets for a pro for the new for the new build.
Excellent.
Okay.
Thank you. Chris, and if you want to skip your turn and we can come back to you, we're going through pros and cons of the new build. Since the first time we went through it, I knew you weren't here, thought maybe the list wasn't comprehensive. So this was what we generated in the first brainstorming, but would love it if you have either pro or con of the building to add, so the goal is comprehensive list.
Sure. And we're saying new build, meaning the proposed
Exactly.
2-story.
Correct.
I think we hit it with the attractive design elements. And certainly the other thing is stormproofing, right? The idea that allowing the water to flow underneath would be potentially key. I think in terms of cons, I think you hit it with the elevator. I think that's, I believe it would be an 88 mandate from the state, correct?
Or we would have to have ramps.
Yeah, or we'd have to have ramps, and then I don't know what the size, what that would necessarily look like. I think that, timing is certainly an issue in terms of cons. If we're gonna be working to finally get the parking lot redone, I would hate to have heavy machinery coming in right after that's done and potentially, mess up any level of, what we've worked on trying to accomplish with finally getting that thing graded and done. And then, I was down there today and just generally looking at it. I guess maybe I could even go back to benefit of a new build, but I think it's also a benefit of just working on it. I think there's a few amenities on the exterior that could be added that would make it a lot better, right? I think there's a little bit more that could be covered up in terms of, it doesn't have to be sand almost all the way to the building. I think that, like in Weed Beach, you can have more of the foot washing stations, make it a little bit easier for families and things like that. And then I guess the other benefit that you already have on here is the upgraded changing and bathing area, which would, I'm sure, have to be better than what we have right now. I also apologize. I was dealing with a sitter.
So thank
My
you.
wife and I are competing 6:30 events, and I drew the short straw. So
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
All right.
I have 6 benefits. Am I wrong to give all 6?
You can give all 6. Yeah.
Some of them
So,
have hit on.
Yeah, go for your 6.
Okay, well, the 6
I'm
which
taking out extra paper.
is a little, the contra side is, it could be a year-round space. And again, you get to Patty's comment and something I've said at many public meetings, we have a lot of folks coming into town who don't have yards, they don't have beautiful waterfront views, and this would give people an opportunity to have somewhere where they could go and enjoy the water and look at it, bring their own meal or whatever, and enjoy it much, much more of the year. I mean, we hear about people going and, sitting in their car to look at the water. Well, how nice would it be if you could get out of your car and maybe go and be in a nice building. And also in the winter, people sit in their cars, and then because it's cold, they run their car, which first of all is a violation of Connecticut state law, and it's polluting, but they do that to keep warm. This, it could be something that people, for at least some numbers of, for some point of the year, could be older and give people more access to enjoying the water a little bit more in off season. So that would be one. It lifts the building out of the flood zone. The current building is a flood zone, and it's just a matter of time when that thing's going to be washed through and be destroyed, And is it going to be in 6 weeks or 6 months or 6 years? I can't tell you, but I think, I certainly have seen the water lapping right up on the corner of the building, the northwest corner numerous times. And our storms are getting more severe. Our harbor is not protected. Our harbor is just simply not protected. We have a southerly, at some point it is going to be a problem. It would be more community space outside of the sun, so people want to, again, down the beach, we beach people can go sit under the open section if you just want to get out of the sun for an amount of time, but still enjoy the water views. That's a benefit. We would have better space for our staff, which they also use as the first aid station. That's pretty bleak and small right now.
When you say staff, are you defining the staff that works down there?
The lifeguards.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, the lifeguards, because they have to take breaks and whatever, and the little room it's not. And they need their breaks to get out of the sun and have their lunch, et cetera. And I don't know if it's a benefit or con or whatever, but we have provided space there to the police department. They did tell us 2 years ago that they continue to need that space. They protect our waterfront. The boat club cannot accommodate them. And they used to have computers and such down there, which were all washed out in one of the floods in the building. So they're in a very tiny little space at the boat club, which really does not meet their needs. And, for protection of the water, the boating and the water community, the police have told us that they continue to need space. So that is something that is at least a consideration. But what they have now is, again, pretty not utilitarian. So that was it. So I'm getting the building, of course, up out of the flood zone and doing it in a proactive manner. So they're not waiting until the building washes out. And then it would be 2 to 3 years to figure out what we're going to do with it, as opposed to getting ahead of it, doing the build off season and really not having the residents miss a season. So it's really doing this proactively rather than reactive. I think those were my 6.
Thank you. I'm going to go on the order of the tiles that I see. Janine?
It's hard to tell who's speaking in your room there because we can't see anybody.
Yeah, that's-
Which is fine. So my concern is, I don't know who the last speaker was, but we're talking about.
That was Lori Bora.
Oh, hi, Lori. Anyway, my big concern is we keep talking about we're upgrading the spaces, we're preparing for storms and climate change and water change. And in actuality, when we look at this plan, the lifeguard is still on the first floor, the first aid is still on the first floor, the police storage is still on the first floor, and now we have breakaway walls. So not only in a hurricane, but other storms, whatever's down there is being ruined. And we're not allocating any space upstairs for the police station or the first aid or the lifeguards. It's still downstairs, and it's still now, instead of being in a structure that actually will last however more decades, being in a cinder block location, we now are building something with breakaway walls, and all of these things that are there will not survive. So to me, building this the way it is, because we have to go up, yet we're keeping all those key components downstairs, it just makes absolutely no sense. Our concentration through this whole thing has been creating a community room upstairs and a concession stand upstairs, and neither of which we ever needed. It was the things that are there that are most important, and those are the things that are being lessened. And as far as the bathrooms, I actually don't agree with the benefit of the new build where you say upgraded changing room. In fact, there's no longer a changing room. You upgrade, you took a third of the bathroom away, eliminated the showers, eliminated the changing area, and you just left the bathrooms. So if anything, the most important aspect of the buildings at the beach, which are the bathrooms, yes, they'll be upgraded, but they could be upgraded in a renovation, but they've now been reduced in size, and there's no longer a changing area, no longer a shower. And I think that's really a mistake. And I think saying that this building that we're building is helping and we're going to have it long term, but all the things that are important are not any safer than they are right now. In fact, they're less safe. And so I object to saying that it's better in that respect. I think the whole decking system we're opening ourselves up, a second level deck. I think a first level deck would be great if we wanted some kind of area for gathering and all the new residents coming in, et cetera. I think the second level deck, we're opening ourselves up to a lot of problems. I don't think it's safe for young kids. I don't think it's safe for campers. I think we had a resident, the man who lives right next door to Pear Tree Point Beach that has his own pier and dock, who came and spoke at one of the meetings to say how many teenagers are constantly on his dock, jumping off, out there all night long, and that he's constantly chasing them away. I think building this is going to attract more kids. I can tell you they park on my street all the time on Crane Road. They park Fridays and Saturday nights. They go down to the beach with their cases of beer. They're always sneaking in. And I think we're opening ourselves up to that as well. I think the current buildings have stood for a long time, withstood many hurricanes, and is still viable. I disagree with the police saying the space is inhabitable because we've been serving food out of there and using it for a lot of reasons. I just think it needs to be cleaned up and fixed up for them. And they were very clear with the FEMA regulations. When we do this upgrade, we can't put anything in that first floor. We can't put desks. We can't put computers. Mike Segro was very strong about what those requirements FEMA requires. And we still have those things down there. They're on the first floor. And it's like, I don't know if we're doing a bait and switch, but I feel like, how do we have a first aid station down there if we can't have a bed for someone to lie on, a desk for someone to use in the police station? So I think it's not right. And as far as, making this building for the new people coming to town, I think the most important thing for the people coming town is that we have a beach and we have places for them to park. And, the beach is an outdoor space and we need to embrace that and preserve that. And if you want decking and more chairs and places for them to gather, I think that's great. I don't think it has to be a 2-story building. I think we have the beautiful gazebo there if somebody wants to get out of the sun. And as far as, people have mentioned maintaining, whatever the cost of heating, air conditioning, snow, ice removal. I'm not sure many people are going to go down there in the winter and get out of their car and walk into that building. It is so windy down at that beach. And I can't imagine anyone going to sit in the room. And also the aspect of who's unlocking it for them. I don't know that is that going to be unlocked every single day and locked at night for people to actually use all winter long. My impression was it was going to be a rental space. So I don't know if that's a valid point or not. That's all I have to say for right now, unless you want the cons of renovating, but it seems like we're on the new building right now.
Thank you, Janine. Let's keep focused on the new building, then we'll switch to the renovation. So Cheryl?
Well, I don't know. I'm on this committee to discuss what we need, what the community wants and needs at Pear Tree. That's my goal here as a member of this committee, and that's what I thought we were all supposed to be trying to accomplish. I understand that we have a lot to discuss on pros and cons of new and renovate and things like that, but I've said most of what I wanted to say last week. I think that as a member of the building committee, that once this working group gets to a point of recommendations to the commission, then the building committee will move from wherever the Board of Selectmen and the commission put the building committee at that time or give us another charge. We'll have another stab at whether or not and how to build a 2-story building or renovate whatever this commission, the Park and Rec Commission and this committee come up with. I've listened to all your pros and cons. I think you all have valid points. I cannot promote, I've been on record as saying that I cannot promote a two-story building with a concession upstairs when we have so many children from the camps coming. And I'm pretty confident an elevator will probably be out of this picture down the road. But that's not a given at any time, any soon. But I think also the cost that's going to be associated with a two-story building and the cost to maintain it year-round, the cost to keep that parking lot plowed all winter long. So, and the steps or the ramps, so people can get upstairs, whether or not we're going to have a concession stand all year long. Heating an open building like that is extremely expensive. And I don't know, I'm not gonna, I don't know where I stand tonight. I think that you've all got very valid points. And I think that we need to try and move forward with the survey to get the community's input.
Yeah, I'd like to ask Randy to weigh in. Randy, I don't want to put you on the spot, but he's been following this. Randy was co-chair of the building committee. He is an engineer. He was very involved in the new build of the Norotan Yacht Club, which does have a flow through but completely usable first floor space. We use it for lots of things, but it is built so that in a storm, we could remove the things that need to be removed quickly. It's usable. We have a party room down there. We have an elevator, which Randy was instrumental in helping with some of the issues with that. So Randy, I'd just love to have your input.
Well, thanks, Lori. It's no secret that I'm in favor of a new building. I think it's impractical to throw $97,000 every 3 years at the existing building. I also think you're going to have one big storm and those concrete block buildings are going to end up in the parking lot, and then you won't have any choice. I think it's a misnomer that the building is 2 stories. It's really a 1-story building with the space downstairs. At Norotan and also at Tokenique, they're the same issues. Those spaces are used. They're probably not legally supposed to be used, but they're used and they're habitable, 98% of the time. And once or twice a year, you get a storm that, takes out that space. But the elevator situation, there's an elevator at Tokenique, they sandbag it. There's an elevator at Norotan. We don't sandbag it. It's got a deep pit with a sump pump. So far, it's worked. We haven't had a major Irene or Sandy since the new building was there. So I guess at some point we'll see. But I think any consideration of trying to renovate the old building is really just waste of money. So I will leave you with those thoughts.
Randy, could you just clarify, you said, and I think I just was writing and missed it, you said 1 to 2 times per year a storm takes out the first floor space. Could you just clarify the experience on the first floor with respect to storms?
Well, so far at Norotan, with where the first floor is, we've really only had, I think, 1 storm that's come in and gotten water even into the breezeway. There's been no need to date for the garage doors to be open, so you get a 3 or 4 foot tide surge to flow through. But that's what it's designed to do, if necessary. We don't have breakdown walls because we built drains, 18 by 24 inch drains all around the perimeter, and we've got 3 garage doors that can be open to let the water flow through if necessary.
Could you say that again? You built what kind of 18 to what? 18 to 20?
Well, there's drains in the perimeter of the foundation that are like, I don't know, maybe they're 12 by 18 inch, 12 inches high, 18 inches wide, and they have a little gate on them. And if the water comes in, it just comes in
It goes out.
and goes out.
Can I ask a question? How far from high tide is the building at Norotan, whereas the Pear Tree building would be how close to high tide?
Well, the maximum high tide at Norotan, we've seen it's right at the,
I'm sorry, I got thrown off, so
That
I don't
was-
know what's going on.
We all did.
All did.
We all did.
Oh,
It just ended.
Do yours. Mine is supposed to be the extended. So, but I think now that we have them, let's do this.
I
but
don't,
when
you
we
can't,
do-
I don't think you can change the link because it's a public meeting, and then we would have a
Yeah.
meeting that people who we didn't send it.
Yeah,
to
no,
can't
they should be able to
attend.
log
Yeah.
back in on the same one.
Well, they seem to be on.
Because the Board of Finance
but
use
we'll
the
have to-
same.
I just logged in with
We
the,
did
with
the
the,
same
the
one,
same
I
number
think,
and the
Yeah.
passcode.
I'm
so.
really, I'll sort this out. Okay, so now we have
Yeah, well-
Pam. We're just waiting for Janet, but I have, so everybody knows, started the recording. Let's be efficient with these 40 minutes, everybody.
Great point. Okay.
So, Randy, you cut out as people, as, I think Sandy had just asked the question. So do you want to just ask your question one more time, Sandy? And then-
So how far is the building at Norotan to high tide compared to Pear Tree's building to high tide?
well, the building's set back from the high tide line, but it's basically at the first floor is basically at maximum high tide level, a little bit above it. Lori can testify for that. You know, it's not right surrounded by high tide. But yeah, I mean, it's the elevation of the building of the first floor of the building, I think is, and I'm talking off the top of my head, I think it's like 12 inches above mean high tide. And you know, in a, you know, any kind of a moon tide or something like that, that doesn't mean very much.
Thank you.
Cheryl, you have a point?
yeah, Randy, I want to go back to that because at high tide, you still have a beach out in front. And then your building is higher than the beach and the high tide level. So
At a moon tide, at a big moon tide, there's not much beach, a foot or two.
okay, so what would it be on an average daily high tide?
Oh, you mean set the front of the building set back from the high tide line on the beach?
Yeah,
I think the patio is 30 feet wide and I think maybe another 20 feet, maybe 50 feet.
so you're about 50 feet away from a high tide, a normal high tide, never mind a flood high tide or a full moon high tide or a perigee tide.
Yeah, I guess it's about 50, you know,
Okay,
within
Just
plus
give-
or minus 10 feet,
okay.
15 feet.
That's a good question, Cheryl.
Well, you know, I think when it's been discussed in the past, it's not the exact same height as the Pear Tree Point Beach when they went through the exact height of the building. But regardless, you know, the bathrooms are not being changed. And when we have this 100-year storm or wherever is going to happen, they're going to be blown away. If you're saying this whole thing is going to come down in a storm, your most important feature is going to come down. So I just want to remind everyone of that. Like the new build is not elevating the bathrooms. They're still the same structure.
Can I jump in here?
Yes, it
Just for a second. I just want to say, I think it's important, I agree with Janine, it's important to define exactly what you mean by new build and define exactly what you mean by rent, you know, if you're getting to renovation, what you mean by that. Because indeed, the new build that that they discussed on the building committee is a renovation, a combination of a renovation of the bathhouse and a new build of the concession and that first floor space that you've been discussing. So it's important to explain that. I really actually have been concentrating. I've talked to Cheryl about this and Carl a little bit. I've been concentrating not on the pros and the cons because frankly, I thought the building committee did a wonderful job of explaining the new building, of explaining why it's important that we have a resilient space, et cetera, et cetera. My question is, and what I wondered that maybe the survey could answer is, are people willing to put a space down at Pear Tree that's elevated? Forget what's in it. Forget, are they willing will they support putting an elevated space? And if they're not willing to support an elevated space, it doesn't exactly matter what's in it, to be quite honest. So the question I'd like you to ask is just a simple one. Do you support renovation? And then you have to define what renovation means.
Right.
Mhm.
It's renovation of both of bathhouse and concession. And you say how much money you have to do it and how long you can use it, period.
Mhm.
New build would mean renovation of existing bathhouse and a new build for concession. However, I think the important part is that will people support a building that is 17 feet high? And so my question would be, renovation or new build required to be 17 feet high. And I think that's where you're going to find out, we stumbled because it's a brilliant thing that was designed. Let me finish, Cheryl.
Yeah.
It's a brilliant thing.
Tell her.
Brilliant thing that was designed. I like it. And I think frankly, I agree with what Laura said, it's what would, if we raise the parking lot so that you can get to the new building, it would be brilliant. But I'm not sure that people are going to support it. And so I think a more basic question, if you put it in the survey, would be just that, because that's what you really want to know. Are they willing to support an elevated space? There are a lot of pros, there are a lot of cons. It's well designed. You can agree with some of the stuff, not agree with some of the stuff, but the basic question is, will people support the elevated space? So that's my take.
It's good.
And I do want to make a comment about the first floor bathroom though, because if my memory serves me, of course, it's been about 2 years since we went on pause on this. One of the reasons that Neil designed it with the first floor bathroom was because that was an accommodation.
Yes.
We heard a lot of community feedback that we don't want the bathrooms upstairs. We don't want to run in our kids. We don't want them upstairs. Please keep the bathrooms on the first floor. So,
Absolutely.
we'll design it that way, but now it feels like that's being turned and used against us. So I want to put that out there. It was done that way for a reason, and that was
Yes.
to accommodate what
Oh,
we.
I agree with you. No, I think it should be on the first floor. I'm not using it against you. I'm just saying that you keep saying that it's going to last a storm, where I just want people to recognize that the bathroom's still on the first floor.
We should raise that as well, but I'm just saying, we did that for a reason, not, so,
Yep.
no, it can't be used, I don't want that used against us, and it was feeling that way.
I think we have Janet back. Cheryl, do you mind if I let Janet weigh in, and Pam also hasn't weighed in, and then I'll come back to you?
Fine.
There you are. Is there something you'd like to weigh in on the conversation?
No, I actually generally agree with some of the points that were made. I don't really have anything new to offer. I don't think when I think about new build, if there's were to be any pros, I don't think of the old design. I think, we should really get back to the drawing board and come up with something that is more ideal, as opposed to just, try to revamp, not revamp, but try to use the design that was created already before. I think we can achieve probably some of the attributes and characteristics that we like about the previous design, but without some of the problematic areas.
What would you cite as the problematic areas? I'm curious.
Well, I think I agree with a lot of people. I think I'm not sure who exactly, but I think I agree with most of everyone who said that, because of the idea that it has to go up, to a second floor. I'm not supportive of that aspect of the old design. I think we can create, something that meets the purpose of a community gathering space without making the structure so high.
How do we do that and comply with the FEMA requirements if you spend?
Well, so that's why I wonder if when we talk about new build, does it have to be, demoing the existing structure and completely rebuild from scratch? Or can we look to just kind of expand on what we have, the current building? And I don't know what the limitations are in terms of regulations when you're just renovating. Or,
It's the money, Janet, that you don't have much to play with. That's the problem when you do that. You really reduce the amount of dollars you have that you can use. So it's just what Patty said, you can expend, 97,000, whatever that number is exactly, every 3 years. So you can do that. But that's all you have.
So can I ask a question, Chris Taylor, but what would the penalty be? I mean, if we spend more than what you're not telling us.
Get your permits today.
You don't get your permit, yeah.
You just can't do it.
FEMA loophole.
And then, well, how much, yeah, I was gonna say, so then the other side is, if we're working on the existing, and we could talk about this more, I guess, but how much can just be repairing versus renovating?
That would be the art, which is, put as much into maintenance, which doesn't count,
Yeah.
as you possibly can in order to, and maybe more ideas of resilience should be thought of, like an outdoor deck, which would not require any permitting, and using awnings and whatever to make an enclosed space during the summer, and then it's all torn down during the winter when it's not needed and used. That type of, I believe the committee should have examined that type of alternative a little bit more.
But
I have to tell you, Vincent, I think I think they, I was an alternate. I think they explored it all. And I just went back and listened to a lot of the Vimeos. It's so much fun, Randy. So much fun to listen to the meetings again. And also listen to Vincent give his public comment as well. So, yeah, okay, fair enough.
Cheryl, you've been waiting to weigh in, so could I come back?
Okay, I want to do a couple of things here. First off, Lori, as my memory going back 3 years, I think at one point Neil Huck designed a unisex bathroom downstairs, if that serves me correct. I'd have to go back and look at the Vimeos too, but I know there was someplace there was a bathroom that was a unisex bathroom, and I think it was downstairs, but don't quote me on that. Second off, what, hon?
I was asking, was it Cheryl, was it a bathroom or was it like the rinse off station outside? Remember he did
I
come
thought
on the rinse out?
at one time we talked about having some kind of a bathroom downstairs. That would be a handicapped bathroom also. So
In a new, are you talking about in a new building, Cheryl?
yes, in the new building downstairs at some point, but there was so many, different designs that could have been thrown out with the bathwater. The other thing I want to touch about was what Adele and I talked about, which was her question that she came up with, and I wrote it to, I think, your satisfaction. So the question would be, which alternative would you support at Pear Tree? A new building under FEMA regulations, 17 feet above ground, yes or no? And then renovate the building that is there under FEMA regulations, yes or no? And then comments. And then that gives people the area to write the comment in. I also wanted to touch on the it's about $97,000 FEMA allows us to have for the first 3 years-ish. That's not including any maintenance work that needs to be done down there. So if there's maintenance to be done, that has nothing to do with it. That 97-ish thousand is for renovating and working and things like that. But I have a little idea. And it would, to get to the if we renovated, let's just say if we renovated and we put a ramp from the parking lot side and around the back side of the building to get to the second story, we take the roof off the building, which could be maintenance. We put some sort of structural flooring up there, and we make a deck up there
Which
with
building?
chairs.
You talking about the bathhouse or you're talking about the concession building?
Yes.
Which
No,
one?
I'm talking about the whole bathhouse concession area.
Okay.
And I haven't thrown this out to the building committee because we haven't been in meeting. But if we were to put, because we still don't know whether we're having a concession stand downstairs or not. So if we were to renovate the concession stand, police area and lifeguard health room area on one side and the bathrooms on the other side, and then take the roof off and put up a ramp around the back side of the building, which is similar to the one that they've done down in Byram. And we have a deck up there. We don't have an enclosed area. You have a meeting space. You have an area to have people communicate, read. Maybe in the summertime, we could put up some kind of an awning type thing for shade on half of it and sun on the other half. If people want to take their lunch and go up there and sit and look at the views, they could do that. You know, this is what keeps me up till 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm just thinking that that would be something that may be more approachable to the community. It gives everybody something that I seem to think everybody wants. They want an area to sit out of the sun. So you could have a canopy type thing up there, an awning thing on posts that can be collapsible for the wintertime. You're not going to have a wintertime room up there, but you would have spring, summer, fall area on the top. And I think if we put it in as maintenance, we might be able to get away with some of that and see how that would be. But on the other hand, that would be my question, like Adele said, put the question out there and see if people want a building 17 feet high, because that's what we have to do. If we start over and we build new, we have to go up 17 feet. There's no two ways around it, in it or out of it. So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you.
Can I just say, Cheryl, so thank you for that feedback. This is Patty. I think, again, I think nobody's in love with like a present roof anywhere unless they've spent a lot of money and it's fancy. And so, if you could do something flat like that, so that it's flat and have some decking, I think people would enjoy that. I would say that we would seriously have to talk to engineers though, because we would have people on top. And so
Right.
it's a whole different level there. So I think it's a really interesting idea that would definitely need to be heavily vetted.
I don't see how that's considered maintenance.
Yes.
No, me either. I'm sorry. I
Well,
don't
if you
either.
if you have an issue with the roof and the roof has to be redone,
Yeah.
you take the roof off.
I don't know about I'm going to bring it all back to cost benefit analysis, which is.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is all going to be cost, but it's
Yeah.
not going to be, it would be, you could probably get around the roof needs to be maintained and it needs a new roof, and we don't have, 4 more years to wait for a new roof. I'm just throwing it out there. They have a place down in Byram that they have the bathrooms on the second floor. It's a low ramp. It's not a high building, and they don't have a concession stand there, but it's got a small deck overlooking the harbor area. So it's very pretty.
Yeah.
Daryl, I'm just curious, how do you picture the ramp going from the parking lot to,
Well, you have to have the right pitch. So I can't remember what the pitch had to be that when we did the new building. You'd have to probably start it out by the parking lot, and if you have the pitch correct, it could go along the back of the building and then maybe around the other side, or you start at the parking lot side and then you go up and then come up and around, and maybe you have enough pitch to come up on the deck side. It all has to be engineered, and it would all have to be discussed, whether or not we had adequate flooring and 2x8s and what we needed for a deck up there.
I think the pitch was a challenge, as I recall, because again, there's ADA requirements in terms of what the pitch can. The idea is you can push a wheelchair, whatever, up there. If it's like
Right.
45 degrees,
Right.
it's like walking on your
Right.
treadmill at like 7 or something.
That's how,
Right.
that's how the idea of an elevator came in, because next thing you know,
Right.
massive
Because
amount of
the
decking.
problem with the
Right.
pitch and the small footprint of the building.
Um,
You have to have people
Right,
around
I
and
also will
around.
just say, I can remember like Tiara saying, one of the things, the reason she used to go to Pear Tree was just because it was easy, like she didn't even want to go to Wee Beach because she didn't want to have to get up and bring.
Tiara?
Yeah,
No,
no, when she talked about the difference between Pear Tree and weed, when she was pregnant out to here, she said she'd like to pull up to the back of Pear Tree, and like leave a lot of the moms say, leave the tailgate open and then just sit down with the younger kids. And so, again, if you're not even, I just think a concession stand, again, that's all up for debate, but was, as you said again, Sarah, concession stand maybe at Wee Beach versus at Pear Tree. We can talk through those things, but where I'm trying to get at is multiple parents of young folks. Depending on the age, right? Okay, Johnny, you can go to the bathroom, but it's one thing to go to the bathroom when it's just around the corner on the sand. It's another thing to go up a ramp. So I recall people having concerns with that.
Can I make one point though about the concession stand? I think if we eliminate the concession stand, 97,000 plus any other maintenance ideas that we can come up, we could renovate that building very nicely if we eliminated the capital cost of putting in a concession stand. I mean, the ovens and this and all that is what brings up the cost of renovation.
I actually had
That brings us up to the 17-foot building.
I had a similar thought too. And you can tell me if this is not possible, but if we're getting rid of the concession stand, I know I still think we need some type of snack option that's like maybe just cold snack bar that doesn't require like a kitchen. The space that's currently the concession stand, I mean, that's a room right there. Could that room be turned into like, a renovated room? I mean, it's small, but I think it can still be used if we don't have like a full-on concession
But we talked,
capability.
was, could we take the service window, turn it into a door, and then have like vending machines that are covered inside, so you get more of a 12-month usage out of them if somebody goes down that way?
Yeah, I mean, that you could probably do.
Right, that would be.
Yeah, it's a very narrow room. It's very awkward. It has no view, so you'd be sitting looking into
Cement.
the sort
Well,
of.
I mean, that's up for, some creative thinking, right?
It's low.
Yeah. It's a tiny-
Yeah, but the more you open it up, the more the water can come in, sorry.
Well, it would be
But not if
high
you
enough.
have-
The window would be high enough, but like Lori said, it is a narrow room. So you would have to expand it into where the police room is and maybe redo the lifeguard room into a different, I'm sure the whole square footage could be reconfigured.
Like the layout, I think, we can try to get creative here and utilize the space we have, but repurpose it for, different needs. We probably do need a space for like first aid and,
Right.
things like that. But I saw the small rooms that has like a fridge right now. And it's just all that, I think just requires some care and renovation, repaint the walls, open up some windows, not like any structure that is on the beach should probably not be, so closed with no windows. Just open it up and and when you say water is going to come in, do you mean like when there's a storm and like rain's like coming in sideways?
Yeah, or the storm surge, I was being a little facetious, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think like, with modern windows, like that probably shouldn't happen unless it's like, the wind is just like insane. But, we can look at all these options, we can make that space that's there significantly better and do more with it that, creates more purpose for it, for different groups and different needs. That's my 2 cents.
It comes down to money. I mean, we have to prioritize. Is renovating that room more important than fixing up the bathrooms?
Maybe we get some quotes for both, to understand how much we're talking about. Yes, prices are more expensive now, because of the building surge, but I'm sorry?
It's $97,000. That's it.
Right, but I thought that, can someone fill me in on the $97,000? Is that just what FEMA allows you to use for any renovation you do to that existing building?
It's
a
worth, it's a percentage
percentage.
of what the building's worth. It was 97,000 over 3 years, correct? Correct.
Okay,
We also need reassessment because building prices in Darien have skyrocketed.
yeah, I agree with that.
Janet, I think it would behoove you to go back and watch some of the building committee meetings. I know you're busy with kids and everything, but if you could take some time, and it's on Vimeo on channel 79, go on demand and look at some of the building committee meetings. And then you might have, you'll be able to understand what we're all talking about, because most of us have all been, of course, I'm on the committee and so's Adele, but most of us know what has been going down for the last couple of years. So it would be beneficial for you to do that.
I think actually, Janet, if you looked at the renovation plans that were worked up by, by the architects, which are, I can't remember if they're under documents or if they're under PowerPoints. I think PowerPoints on the town website. But it gives you the layout, and you could see how much it was going to cost to do what they were talking about, and how. And I think it also, it's, it was phased because of that 3-year window that we were talking
Right.
about. So,
Yeah, and I'm sure it's even more expensive now, but
Yeah,
also the
yeah.
phased approach, I mean, is that so bad? Maybe you prioritize like fixing the bathroom for the first 3
Yeah,
years, right?
yeah.
3 years is gonna
All right.
fly by,
Janet,
That was our
I'm sorry
10-minute
to
warning.
interrupt. We've got 10 minutes left. I think I now know what's happened on Zoom. So in the 10 minutes, I have one question and then I want to move to the approval of the minutes. My question is taking in a slightly different direction. When this project started, I think the expectation on total cost was a lot lower, and the project has grown to include the boat ramp, the parking lot, and each component seems like it is getting more and more and more expensive. And so especially with people here who have served on the RTM, what do you think town's appetite is if the whole project, boat ramp, parking lot, new build, has a $7 to $10 million number on it? Is that, do people feel like, or any insights into at what point the project is too expensive? And I don't know the answer to it, but I thought this group might have an opinion.
I think even the boat, learning about what the dredging was gonna cost and the boat ramp, I think that alone was, it's tough. I mean, I don't think they're there for it.
But the boat ramp, and the dredging, that needs to happen. Like, that's like,
You can do the ramp without doing all the dredging.
At least some of the dredging.
Yes,
yeah,
yes,
some of
yes.
it, but that's like something that needs to be done.
Yeah.
It's
And
not
that's
like we
doing it
want
right
to
by
do,
itself.
we won't, it's not like we want to do it and that it's like a frill. It's like, this is something that is, we need for
We
our
need to do it.
town,
Yep.
right? So.
Oh, it's true, but it's a point of view too. I mean, they chose not to dredge when they built that boat ramp, and they knew when they built that boat ramp that it wasn't going to be inadequate, and we've lived with it. Do I think that's right? And do I think we really do need to do it? Yes, I really do think we need to do it. I also think we really do need to raise that parking lot and expand the beaches, because the beach's resiliency depends on the expanding of those beaches. And so the parking lot doesn't flood more and more and more and more. So, there's a lot there.
So, I mean, from knowing folks on, I feel like all the commissions and committees and being an RTM member currently, I don't think the appetite's there for 7 to 10 million. I think that's very difficult. I think you're right, Sandy.
I concur.
I think that, when the initial plan was rolled out, I think, and the building committee was able to work, I think it was good, but I don't think that many people still read Darien Times, right? I don't think there was enough outreach to the community. I think that if you wanted to build, the actual momentum for the spend or something like that, I think there would need to be a significant investment in some sort of communications push by the town itself, once again, to say, come see what's actually going to be built. I think that's where the survey does help, right? It starts to educate the community into, if the appetite for the community is, hey, we're going to spend $7 to $10 million, and trust me, we can bond it. I'm not worried about that, right? That can be worked out, but
It's not free money though.
of course it isn't. And we'd have to work through, I mean, not only Board of Finance, but Jack Davis, right? And it's
Right.
not going to be the
And a
easiest
lot
thing.
of projects being funded right now, and the renovation
For
of
sure.
homes, Henley, Royal,
Yep.
right? Just,
No, not lost on me there. And I'm just saying, if there was ever going to be a way, and that's where that PR push, I mean, could be significant into the, tens to $100,000 range of trying to just get the community to pay attention to what this might be. And it's like, do we really need to market and sell to our own community? We're not that big, right? If the general feeling, if people care enough and they want to fill out a survey, whether that costs money or doesn't cost money, like, okay, well, that's your input,
Yeah.
Can we talk about letter writing? Can we talk about holding public hearings? I mean, that doesn't cost us anything. I'd rather continue to go that route than trying to sell our community on a $7 to $10 million upgrade for Pear Tree Point at this point.
but are you good with the survey? Because it's a
I
mechanism to
think it's
get feedback.
and continued
Yeah.
public comment,
Yeah.
as, hey, we're getting back into this. How do people feel? I think this working group is great. I think that there needs to continue to be a communications outreach from the committee or commission or something like that, where even we can add, who are some of the neighbors down there? Who are the people that are affected? Who are the voters? Like who actually uses this space? That they can also have a say in some of this right now. So we can say, hey, we didn't alienate, like we want to hear from absolutely everyone, or as many people who are willing,
Yeah,
right? And I know it's not,
stakeholders.
it's not the easiest, but we're not a huge community, right? There's just over 4,000 households, we can certainly get the voice, or at least the reach out that way to try and hear from them. And then I think, it comes to recommendations and how to move forward. But I think the RTM is going to be, I think the town is going to be a hard sell on $10 million at this point right now.
So Chris, do you think we should, this is kind of a logistical question for the survey. Should we be asking for people to fill in their email addresses when they complete the survey? Do you think that's going to deter people from wanting to participate in the survey, where people would want to be anonymous?
Janet, can I ask this, since we're about to lose you guys on Zoom, could I hold that question until next week when we do the rest of the survey, get approval of the minutes, so that when we lose you, we don't have to come back on? So I sent around, I'm sorry to cut this conversation off, but I think we'll just be happy we did it. I sent around draft minutes. Would love any comments on them if people have them.
You don't have me as attending the meeting and I was there. If you could just add my name.
Absolutely, Janine, I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
Actually, I was too.
Via Zoom. Do you have to
Yeah.
designate differently? Do we need to, Adele, do you need to designate separately if somebody's via Zoom versus in person, or doesn't really matter? What do you think?
My gut feeling is that, you know, we don't have rules for hybrid meetings right now, but my gut feeling is that you wouldn't need to. No,
Not?
not.
Okay, thanks.
There, you're there. I hope. Everybody seems to be communicating really well. It's as if we're all in the same room, I believe.
Okay, note those two comments. Any other ones? Does somebody want to make a motion to approve minutes?
So moved.
Second, okay, all in favor? Any opposed? Okay. Yes,
Cheryl, are you opposed or for?
No, I said I'm for.
okay.
Is that red hand up or down? Green, up or down? No,
Now, Zoom is gonna adjourn us.
To adjourn us, does anybody want me to re-up us for another 40 minutes and keep the conversation going? Or are people ready to call it in for the evening?
That's good.
I could say, I mean, it's, I mean, we don't have to say for 40, we could
No,
say
we
for
could say,
15 or
yeah,
20 to finish.
Okay.
It's just that, can you answer, we have to stay to the agenda, so I'm not sure can you even answer her question on the email, or you just want to table that anyways?
I
Yeah.
think we should just.
I think we should table the survey if you don't mind,
Okay.
Janet, just because it opens a whole nother.
No, that's fine. Just if everyone could kind of think about that. I mean, I have no answer to that. So it's just something I'm wondering about myself.
Yeah. So
Because to Chris's point, you know, maybe we want to have those email addresses to invite people who bother to fill out the survey for, you know, other types of public comments after, but that's probably the only purpose in collecting the email addresses.
When's our next
Talked
meeting?
about some folks.
We're gonna accelerate it
21st.
bi-weekly.
So we were going to go with March 21st, and let's just confirm, because I think I've got a mix of, I thought Tuesdays and Wednesdays, now we throw in a Monday. So let's just figure out what planet I was on when I suggested these dates. Should we do, let's not do Monday.
Tuesdays are good.
Should we do Tuesday, the 22nd for our next meeting?
I'm away for spring break, but you don't need to consider me, just maybe consider the question that I brought up about the email addresses.
It's okay, it's my birthday, so it works.
Oh,
I'll bring
goody.
cupcakes.
You can't make that either. So should we do, let's do Wednesday, the 23rd?
That's fine.
Yes.
All right.
Does that work for you?
23rd. But Wednesdays
that- do you
usually
have a-
conflict
is that
with a
your-
lot of other.
Is that a commission meeting? No.
Is that's not commission meetings? Okay,
Do we have
Okay.
Park and Rec that day,
Are you
Cheryl?
back?
Or
Yes.
Adele?
Okay.
23rd, March 23rd?
No, it should be
Happy
the
to
week
come back for
before.
vacation.
Yes,
Sounds okay, but I don't know without looking, you know,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I think we're,
It's March 23rd, ladies
yep,
Yes.
March 23rd.
and gentlemen. Okay.
No,
Jeez, this month went by fast.
Yeah.
it's only a special meeting.
Bless you.
Bless you. So Kara, you're starting it up again? And
As-
or no? Okay.
I have